United Nation, United Nation, United Nation, learning Tibetan language, learning Tibetan language, no language freedom, no language freedom, no culture freedom, no religious freedom, no religious freedom, no cultural freedom. Long live, long live. Ruruchen fe na ro na ma zu ze woni ba ti de u zu shu yi kan le ge zu ruruchen ye bo pe ro na tu che na ta diri yang de jan sok ke den to do ra ni jar mo gon zu shi yi ani jaram ko thoma de la 수수 그저 던져 그모 틀리 주질하게 소신하인 그모라 페로노 Hello. Now address by Kongo Chiti. Hello. Representative, Office of Tibet, Geneva. Thomas Delia, General Commission Buchoya, Jangan Dupini, Terry Delia, Terry De Peve, Europe Chitu, Kongo Tudeng, Gasula Chotang, Taganashingi, Swiss and Liechtenstein. Puri tsok shuen gule tumi namba taga na shingi shumde mayimba tsokpa khagi tumi namba tang miksegi go tunsur chisur cho ani mima lenge yonglia tomadile chandi tashtile shuba da jani taringi geji domi topang nimodelia namba zulhenge changmalo simshu ranjine namshipe halle ba thangbu de yimbine namchu lenge changmalo de phesha gabushida chungso toji che shuen ruba tawana shingi mixegi shenge chu mangbuchik phesha dilel haga 보고 충주 배망부 폐샤 땐데 파마주기 심슈디 다 mikpe 댄스직 차데버 다우직 통구도 디마체베 코란주 마옴바 벽이 선자 인도가야 벽이 탑조디 묘튀니 난주기 네 대고 요 인도가야 넘버 중요기 심슈디 땐데 보고주기에 시요레라 코란주 임비네 마옴발야 탑조디가야 땐데 슈게그레 삼베기 레워직 통수 토지 최슈인 단대 차려 표현하려 도움이 톱당기네다 자 잡박이 되조지그래 예자 넘버주기 시요샤레 표현하려 자외기다 야미쪽이 임바자 임비네 배가 망부치기 냠숍낭네 믹세기 제로 코비드 폴리시 가려 뭐그 할레버 숲촌부직 낭버래 다음에 신기 묘투네 표현하려 요배 표현쪽이 레워디 젠조말리 요배 먼저려 최샤요도 가려 먼저네 땐데 찍네 나랑쪽이 탑졸이야 겹겨래 니네 코란졸리에 땐데 찍먼저 요다 셰베기 달렌직 차두고도 숨방 개체셔디 나랑쪽이 임비네 텐수 양수 땅고야디 개체부처기 요도 가려 넘버2 할레버 망부 폐샤 딜리아 땐데 토지체다 제수이랑 슈야인 안티네 또 인게 날려 치카시직 슈초고초 Honorable Member of the Parliament Kongo Tukdengyatula the President, Vice President, Executive Committee members and section leaders of the Tibetan Association of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, the former representatives, former parliamentary members, heads of the various Tibetan organizations, and of course, dear Tibetans and all the supporters of the Tibetan movement. It gives me immense pleasure to see that even after 60-odd years of this Tibetan movement, we continue to see Tibetans and Tibetan supporters raising Tibetan issue and importantly trying to resolve the Tibet-China conflict. I think today, on this 74th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, and of course the observance of the International Human Rights Day, we have to remember the deteriorating situation inside Tibet. What we have seen time and again is not just one particular violation of Tibetan human rights. It is systematic and strategic violation of every facet of human rights of Tibetans inside Tibet. What we have seen is not just protest against the zero-COVID policy of China implemented with the sole purpose of controlling the Tibetan people in Tibet, but also rejection of the Chinese policy of assimilation, of destroying the Tibetan identity, culture, religion, and every important aspect of Tibetan life. I think on this day, it is not just important to celebrate the declaration, but also to reflect what this declaration has actually brought to the Tibetan people. I, for one, sincerely believe that there is much more ground to be covered by the United Nations when it comes to the human rights of Tibetans in Tibet. We have seen that Tibetan cultural identity is being persecuted. And this is not just aimed at the current generation. This is aimed at decades to come, because what this colonial-style boarding school of the Chinese authorities is targeted towards is not just the current generation, but the generations to come. Because it is not just 10-year-old and 15-year-old Tibetan kids that are being sent to these boarding schools, but also kids as young as 3 years old, 4 years old are being forcefully separated from their Tibetan family and are being sent to these boarding schools. And what do they do in these boarding schools? They teach what it means to be Chinese, and of course, definitely not in Tibetan but in Chinese language. And this is bringing about a fundamental shift in the Tibetan people's identity, because Tibetan children are no longer being able to preserve what it means to be a Tibetan. And I think this definitely will have impact on a large scale in generations to come. On the other matter, what we are seeing is total surveillance of Tibetans inside Tibet. We are receiving reports of DNA collection from millions of Tibetans, thousands of Tibetans, and these databases are being used to control Tibetans, to monitor Tibetans, and to ensure that tomorrow they cannot step outside of Tibet. We already had curtailment in the movement of Tibetans. They are not allowed to even move within Tibet freely. And now in future, with the extensive DNA collection, and now we are also receiving reports of iris scan, their eye is being scanned and the database is being built, and these are all aimed to control Tibetans in Tibet in the future. Also, what we are seeing is the destruction of the monasteries, the destruction of religious institutions. And for Tibetans, it is the culture, it is the language, it is the Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, that has always been the unifying factor. And with these systematic attack on Tibetans and their core identity, what we fear is that there is a great threat to the civilization of Tibetans, which has been centuries old and which has been preserved against very difficult odds in Tibet. With this, I would like to sincerely thank all the supporters of Tibet, because with your support, I definitely feel that there will be a sustainable movement of the Tibetan cause, and maybe one day we will hopefully be able to gather together in front of Potala and pray for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you so much.
Kumula Tuchina, Anishamla, Yuruchinti, Tutan Jamsulagi, Ani Linga Tonji, Sashanaya, Nikomo, Tutan Jamsula Pirono.
Thank you, Kola. And now we have addressed by Kumo Chiti Tutan Gasula and reading out the Tibetan Parliament in exile statement.
Sis Tongchir Geneva. Jamlong Degala, Nemde Jetsoko, Sanzik de Chone, Dua Mi Tota Yongcher Sada Chech, Longo, Dinji Dongjong Korbata, Arandi, Pokawa Ganjing, Lana Mipi Uti, General Consa Jangun Jama Tamchen Chimba, Chola and Zamlong Jipti Jaga Tomni, Longo Simcho saw some soldiers that are Drovig, to soon did. Taftenne Swiss Station Stang Poromiman Dizik Kodola Jilu Jachi Mamanga Kason Takam Densap Nan Tabiak Yorobla Nevjig Maran Geneva Arajon Dozo Kazab Donjo Kongo Tani Chojala Ovi Poromiman Dizik Chozo Soji Timin Namba Tunchu Zurwa Chade Chiti Zurwa Haya Piron Europe Sane Janda Mandoa Kambun Degi Mimang Tola Marava Gamba No Tuchu Dunchileba and the Mongo Chipsi Shansha Hajanga Semna Muktu Zambota Simshi Chuba Marava Saba Sayina Lamtunda Japchuru Yoga Samche Tendeka Simla Mi Mongoji Chipsi Nasha Chipsi Nangogare No Chwas Karma Mongo Yodu and Tanda Zurika Tatava Tarango Shidari, the numbers of Taro Shoga Studio Langcho, Langkor, Menkor and Denda to switch Namshi Tamu Denda, Jacob the Merikatonda and the Chipsi Chansa, Tenda Sanzo Pomima Chiti Lanzo Gumone, Nara and Gilgumone Tamala. And some detached the Ini tanda porque nane ta mi mongo chi de na shole khashi to de chi go rojang che ani inji na kongo kalu phebale manda yo tonsang tigete ta manda yo chi khashi chi choba chi general konsa changon jaha kantham chigje wa chembo chogla nobil jede zangta berjim jate mola sewo simche sapsong khori tutan jago tho pome ma chitil hanso je songse chelo chitang gabja jaji jarga chinda Geneva che nyan chelo konsa changon kantham chigje wa chembo chola zamlang nang che nyata chishu nobil jede zangta berjim jate Londar Mulu Sewa Simchu Sosong Kuri Tutsik Chapa Chanji Nimondar Patang Ji Ruwa Yongji Mandi Zashi Chenbu Satang Jakan Yongji Ngabda Jiktin Jibdi Tehun Pime Yongji Gonchantang Lana Mipi Uchi General Gongsa Jangun Jayu Wambo Tamjin Chinja Zikwa Chenbu Chola Jiji Pime Yongji Tsapshiti Gata Josim Ji Goni Kukur Cheto Tang, Quatin Jitan Ji Gusha Moto Penne, Rashib de la Dami Jiji, Gonsa Changon Kamsang Jijiwa Chimbom Chona, Tongcho Namjung Jivi, Nirak Tambi, Taba Timjongda, Chopa Tsawamipi, Lamlu Nyamsib Jiti, Jitin Chungsa Timi Jivi, Lamtum Zapu, Jamba Lana Mipi Shik Yimba Masat, Pumi Satum Jubshoji Lingar, Tata Timi Jivi Lama Bajik de George Nanzati Zamon Tango Onyozan Tata Timi Jivi Lamne Setab Jigu Yi Lamdong Tang Nyamjing Nangkwashi Yimbi Chilo Chikton Gabja Jaji Jargo Lor Novi Jete Zangda Gongsa Chola Berji Jin Jikten Jete Tehon Chembara Masurwa Tang Chapji Bodun La Jechi Nang Koto Tang Dondang Jechang Rojo Lapchinji Panto Chombo Shongyo Dene Chia Mipi Tapjula Yichi Lipi Gunde Tang Bumi Dendung Munzinji Zonda Mata Shongashik Jota Yichi Bumi Changmi Sosul Goksanji Choba Tsimi Jivi Lamna Nishi Nipir Goni Yichi Tang Damja Jar Nanshik Jananshi Jotabzi Dudan de Songzi Yiku Chungi Yin Ruan Marna Pamjuru Kudutang Ziktung So Chi Ngu Yarji Te Dansimji Kingshang Chikya Chila Pamni Tongjimbi Chi Niktuji Kamdar Pomu Lana Mipi Uchi General Gongsa Kamchong Jigjiwa Chimbo Chokan Ruwa Mi Chimchang Chimbo Nde Na Jibdik Jinshir Zamba Wanga Muyoto Jo Devam Dubatang Dengar Mondoba Jingchang Yimatang Diang Chanting Tang Jibdira Nevra Tomar Rangchim Tang Rimbi Jitso Tang Digab Zamlong Jise Chapir Jagwayi Kualab Luku Jinong Jimbaran Zamlong Deka Mongbo Gongsam Chola Mesirji Cheto Zingda Jarga So Juji Malawan Berjim Zanang Yobi To Dalo Chinda Chichibi, Chief Jerganian, Jaharji Jasan Diri Danger Chibi, Gandhi Mandala Tepsi, Gonsam Chokom, Zamlong Nanga Jibdeta, Shama Nyangji Soji Tola, Lapchinjin Zataf Jana Yin Wenzu Ho, Tepsing Deyor Namda, Himalaya Mwati Sichong, Governor Kishaba Rajandara Argar Rajandara Aldara Cho Ji Dasa Yugar Tashin Cholang Zgla Kante Chepivji Netong Jirgo Lo Jechi Gandhi Mandala Sirji Zingta Tomate Gongsa Jangun Chembo Cholang Berjim Zayo Kapker Gongsa Chogo Tsemi Jiwatang Nyangji Gepam Koran Zamlang Memang Jetang Fakwate Derdu Manso Namla Kuala Songam Destra Chestra Nawa Masat Turjin Jindru Kenji Destra Gonti Lapchinjin Zatan Matan of Jangdang Chongjambar Quatan Ulamete Chi Jiji Norway Yuji Jibde Zantaka Magirna zamlong nanga hamaka hondi nam mepan zoti jeke phansen baran janthang dan jibti tenthab yambata kere phambi lapchin jin zaji chen namla ju jala simgir thebshir jibti zantam berjin yoba tar dalo novi jibti zantam yorub jerkha belarus ne yimbi doami thoptang thamchopa keshab al bilaski ta ari doami Ursun Romi Tokan Tantinche Tsokwa Russian Human Rights Organization Memorial Ukraine Kimo Ranghanga Romi Toptanga Tsokwi Teni Ukrainian Human Rights Organization Center for Civil Liberty Jela Burton Kewa Tar Kon number Omema Jiti Lanso Jin Nome Samdeta Nagju Jijiyin Yero Jerchi Domi Toptanga Nyamoya Yimbi Maksudang Ranghang Dibi Jacob Kaka Manamla Domi Ji Toptanga Nyamo Agato Dambi Na Sansi Jivjin Yana Ang Bono Tata Jana Marjunga Tamta Tsanenji Chime Bono Doa Machohi Mar Domi Toptang Darshiko Gonosur Tangde Membi Chamshodang Nagami Nyanzik Jin Zanzang Zonjik Tang Kasang Chami Htola Devjang Nascho Ram Mariji Lasok Kayik Tang Shodang Rikjang Ji Sami Htochik So Tang Tang Htang Jumbar Zamla Watir Namni Jana La Gankar Goyi Dharma Nangoyi Bokar Jijiyin Turab Nyekshi Kwanda Nang Chikdu Hangzi Ji Lamluk Tamara Neva Samto Master Jana Marjong No Boza member Zamlang Chungyongji Denjawa Gashin Chishu Te Yimba Nanju Jajida Chong Chang Jana Wohani Chibi Toyang Nyarim Jir Gochak La Nyati Dashi Hone Zang Bon Nango Bonusur Runduk Shoksam Ganji Tani Karnar Parmashi Zojimbar Jana Zone Teta Chata Chamcho Goyi Katir Jaji Yin Nishar Jana Marsho Tsoke Kam Nishi Tsokchin Zirvi Jis Jana Ka Zhangchin Tang Zhongchir Ka Nang Mimang Tang Hwato Tolob Ka Homna Tang Girkin So Nus Chir Toni Denzum Tang Namtong Chongkar Jetang Jemi Yimba Masat Khonsum Botsuk Suwu Ka Shigna Ngatsur Sahang Girchu Mogowar Ranghang Mangsi Go Marsho Tsokwan Gostang Hlogar Go Shijin Pa Mar Bok Marjo Rangar Gu Sanjir Chaksar Nangsar Go Ngatsur Chanyu Chandu Miji So Jagzhung Go Dahti Sijin Zemjembar Mutu Mipi Jirgur Jija Chivi Jevar Janag Zhungge Chimdong Horik Tso Deyu Lorjila Chimik Tete Chilok Chitong Gabja Jaji Jargo Lo Jigju Donjinji Tabdik Netang Di Riksarta Riksarta Mayawata Tata Janalon Dojinbir Netang Te Jaji Chun Tonang Nijinji Banjur Kepan Zamla Jimabja Hor Janalon Gandwami Toptan Tat Yarji Yontar Chekir Che Gandir Jagoyi Mbokir Jaji Yin Jarji Jotsuk Timi Boten Japchur Tsokchen Tang Japa Ari Jasa Washington Da Tsikwe Jingdi Se Mexico Jotsuk Timi Kashab Deputy Salvador Caro Cabrera Chong Niti Ho Dolos Chindar Chikchi Tsip Janin Mexico Jotsuk Timi Boten Japchur Tsokwa Sanjang Nang Tabara Gapsetang Jang Boten La Chantung Japchur Yongla Jeshi Jotsuk Timi Boten Japchur Tsokwa Ka Ngara Hla Tsakso Yongwaran Basun Jijitang Divi Dashi Na Jilan Katsab Tsokchang Ka Ne Nini Yorub Jeka Ka Do Boten Jekar Jawa Ganglo Shongyo Shilok Chitong Gabja Nabjik Nargani Zang Bodi Jana Marjango Zawa Hamzang Jiji Zataka Netang Jechak Tsami Gongara Ngasar Tara Tuta Tawar Jana Zhunga Nanjuta Zanlo Jilu Pomema Pombo Namla, Yenson Churkawi, Nachu, Odeja Nyangda, Nyangjimbi, Zataka, Netangla, Odangsum Nyamchita, Tara, Jivjig Jachi, Pao Homo, Adison Yangji, Haksanda, Huanzang, Yangtu, Ulana Mipir, Zajib Jala, Yang Narjuchi, Jivjinio, Potinu Denta Sarchi, Ranga Lar Yopi, Pormo Namne, Chivdir Chirgoni, Potem Tabdata, Jekyll Lengur Sotola, Noa Nyamponta, Korko Tanzum Goye, Nankar Jijiyin, Division, Konsa Changon Chambo Choni, Novi Jasa Oslo, Novi Jebdia Zanta, Nojin Zakapche, Balo Sancha, Nair Gotundang, Po Tanseta, Doyi Tonto, Palo Lanton, Ramza Nawa Ka, Gose, Jayi Tikcha Tamcha Vipchi, Bomber Namji, Yangni, Yangda, Yella Tanjang, Tondamche Laftar, Jinchung Jaji Kargan Shindeche, Terang, Konsan Chola, Novi Jete Zantan Belgici Tutan, Zagoto Jakar Toso Kongo Temek Sanda, Lata Rangchong, Rejong Yarji, Lansoche, Dekun Kishak Tashir Jason Choko Su, Latang Nayu Mana Kachik Chi, Jikar Daransa Chepek Nayu, Potang, Jargani Var, Jarab Lujita, Chuta Rejong Jiji To, Namundim, Gender Tamso Yopa Mazai, Poti, Jagarji Denjato, Hachang Karna Chera Song, Jagar Jomon Nini, Potom To, Jakir. Narla Yopi, Bokir Jiji, Chongcha, Teranga Korkan di Juni, Potom to Japcha Nankan, Jachi Nanga, Jongda, Jongja Mambi, Chikir Nayu, Manamta, Laguat, Nir Jaka, Joma Ninjila, Patin Chi Jiji, Taton, General Konsa, Changun Chambon Cho, Kitsi Japa, Yinter Tanja, Tukchi Jeton Hata, Linji Tabata. Zaman Sachi Yose Jibdi, Nimi Chapti, Potung Denta Neta Sara, Yungi Jiji, Mountain Jiji, Ponama Jitil Hansoji, Chilochik Nieton Niksanieta, Chigni Zipchi, Nim Zipchi La Arisha. Lafadana Indikisari. I would like to say a few words in English. If we are gathered here today in front of the United Nations in Geneva to observe 74th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, since then, in different parts of our planet, many countries, many peoples have benefited from this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But some part of our planet, especially under Chinese dictatorial and colonial regime, Tibetan people, Uyghur people, South Mongolian has repressed since more than 70 years. So, as a Tibetan from diaspora, we want to be the voice of the voiceless, our brother and sister who are under Chinese illegal occupation. According Chinese communist regime and Tibetan, everything going fine. If it is the case, we invite Chinese authority to let United Nations a fact-finding mission let in Tibet, and the United States, EU, international media, let them go on Tibet and check the fact on the ground. That is how international communities works. How China can be a credible world power and how China will be accountable for its acts. We, as a people of Tibet, we consider China only our eastern neighbor. We refuse to see them as our master. China's presence in Tibet, China's illegal occupation of Tibet, it is contrary to the international law, which violates the principle of Tibetan national sovereignty, the principle of Tibetan territorial integrity. If we are here to ask in front of UN to say, according to the UN Charter, every country has to be respected in their sovereignty and their territorial integrity, as China demand for themselves. We are a free people. We have equal right before law. That is what we are asking for last more than 62 years. Since Tiananmen massacre in 1989 and the Tiananmen Square in Beijing, after more than 32 years, last November 25th, from Lhasa, from Urumqi, Uyghur historical capital, from Shanghai, different across China's different provinces, academic community, common citizens took to the street to ask to end China's communist general lockdown. To be full on information, since the beginning of the 2020, China's Xi Jinping's regime has delayed the declaration of the outbreak of the COVID-19, which has spread, contaminated all the continent across the globe, and which provoked untimely millions and millions of deaths, and lockdown of the world economy, which created social misery, which took away people's basic right and freedom. China's so far, to my knowledge, refused UN mission, World Health Organization's delegation to let them carry a free, open, transparent, independent inquiry. Chinese authority failed to answer to its international obligation. So, last November, millions of Chinese citizens, they cried, they risked their life because they are under military surveillance and repression. In spite of their life-risking challenge, they shouted and to the government of Communist Party to end the restriction, to end dictatorship, and to give the Chinese people basic right and freedom. So, since then, as Tibetan, as Uyghur, as Mongolian, as Chinese Democrat, we don't feel anymore alone. We have more than 1 million Chinese common citizens who who ask restoration of freedom, democracy, transparency, political pluralism, and China's communist dictatorship. So, to remind Xi Jinping, if you want to hear today, His Holiness moderate, very generous offer and the firm work of middle way approach. We are seeking a consensual and negotiation, mutually agreeable political solution to the problem of Tibet. If not, you are going to have end communist regime and which its dictatorship, because people of China, they are fed up with China's communist single thought, propaganda, injustice, repression, organ transplantation, and detention of the millions Uyghurs, and civilization of Tibetan culture and Tibetan identity in the name of China's bilingual education policy, which wipe out and the Chinese school curriculum, all the school programs since this month going to be touched through only Chinese Mandarin. This colonial agenda, we are going to make it fail because of we have strong, determined, and we have also a lot of international support and different EU, Parliament, government, national parliamentary support groups, international media who support through the objective fact. They support our basic right and freedom. So we have a large support from the people across the different continent. So I say, as a Tibetan freedom fighter, with our fellow countrymen who settled in the Switzerland, so through this occasion, I would like to take this opportunity to say our gratitude, our appreciation to the government, people of Switzerland, to have received one of the largest Tibetan community in Europe, and through them, through their freedom, our freedom struggle have been carried in the very good condition, with your moral support, with your political support, with your financial support. We will continue and we shall come over. Bojalo! And Tatan Kosa Changun Jawan Kanjan Chimba Choa Kasi Jaba Tangare Gono Jata Nishi Sanga Jiyaka Tonto Tipchin Tontan Javananga Gono Jata Nika Sanga Jiyaka Tomo Jamjita and you Rangi Chitsu Buma Yongum Talam Dosak Chidu Chimsak Chingdang Yombata and you Shiji Nyamtum Tola Mambo Mangzu Rawala Palarui Mundana Chitani Teronga Teron Yamdi Jaso Likong de la Tatas Gondrami Totanimo Sonsi Lingo de la Pemi Samala and Tujichi Tujana.
United Nations! United Nations! United Nations! United United Nations. Shame on you, Chinese government. 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 Free Tibet. Free Tibet. Save Tibet. Save Tibet. Speaking Tibetan language.
It's not a crime.
Speaking Tibetan language.
It's not a crime.
Speaking Tibetan language.
It's not a crime.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Free Tibet.
Stop killing.
In Tibet.
Stop killing.
In Tibet.
Stop torturing.
In Tibet.
Stop torturing.
In Tibet.
COVID-19.
Made in China.
COVID-19.
Made in China.
COVID-19.
Made in China.
We demand human rights.
In Tibet.
We demand human rights.
In Tibet.
We demand human rights.
In Tibet.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Release, release,
Benchen Lama.
release, release.
Benchen Lama.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
Release all the political prisoners.
In Tibet.
Release all the political prisoners.
In Tibet.
We want.
Freedom.
We want.
Freedom.
Chaya Gyangsha. We want. We want.
Freedom.
We want.
Freedom.
Longsho, Longsho.
Benita Longsho.
Longsho, Longsho.
Benita Longsho.
Perangzen. Perangzen. 要日不去国际校园电报说。要日不去国际校园电报说。谢谢娘做有我说。谢谢娘做有我说。United Nations. United Nations. United Nations. Shame on Chinese government. Stop the torturing.
In Tibet.
No human rights.
In Tibet.
No human rights.
In Tibet.
No religious freedom.
In Tibet.
No religious freedom.
In Tibet.
Shame on Chinese government.
Shame, shame.
Shame on Chinese government.
Shame, shame.
Enough is enough.
China government.
Enough is enough.
Chinese government.
Enough is enough.
Chinese government.
Enough is enough.
Chinese government.
Shame on you.
Chinese government.
Shame on you.
Chinese government.
Shame on you.
Chinese government.
United Nations.
Wake up, wake up.
United Nations.
Wake up, wake up.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Let the Dalai Lama.
Return to Tibet.
Let the Dalai Lama.
Return to Tibet.
Shame on Chinese government.
Shame, shame.
Shame on Chinese government.
Shame, shame.
Shame on Chinese government. 都不当掉的了，我说开始搞不了也谢谢，我说对的，对的对。This is for the Chinese innocent people who is suffering under the zero COVID Chinese policy, which is they want to crack down the Chinese people, which is unbelievable. People are everywhere. They make a demonstration. We see that. I can see that in CNN, BBC, and everywhere. Chinese government, please respect your people and all the minorities. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Chinese government is the liar. Chinese government is the liar. Chinese government is the killer. Xi Jinping is the killer. Xi Jinping is the killer. No, stop killing. Stop lying. Stop lying. Stop lying.
아니 드림피는 필요한 정말 대정머리 앞에 도중수 먼저 내가 더 깨게 됩니다. 먼저 파게 그런 디나라 전자 겸이기 깨다요라 그러면서 파수 김비게 명체 아니 겹랑을 겹겨 땅에나 앞에 가서래 정말로 신고지 지도도 용서를 저러게 해주고 사만님도 인다. We demand human rights.
In Tibet.
We demand human rights.
In Tibet.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Shame on China.
Shame, shame.
Shame on China.
Shame.
is burning!
China is lying!
Tibet is burning!
China is lying!
Tibet is burning!
China is lying!
United Nations!
Wake up! Wake up!
United Nations!
Wake up! Wake up!
United Nations!
Wake up! Wake up!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Tibet is burning!
China is lying!
Tibet is burning!
China is lying!
Shame on China!
Shame! Shame!
Shame on China!
Shame! Shame!
Shame on China!
Shame! Shame!
COVID-19!
Made in China!
COVID-19!
Made in China!
COVID-19!
Made in China!
We want justice!
In Tibet!
We want justice!
In Tibet!
We want justice!
In Tibet!
Release! Release!
Panchen Lama!
Release! Release!
Panchen Lama!
Release! Release!
Panchen Lama!
We demand human rights!
In Tibet!
We demand human rights!
In Tibet!
ताजानी statement resha thande chalia turtuchik ingenalia shuchochi. On this special occasion of the 33rd anniversary of the conferment of the Nobel Peace Prize on His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Kashak offers its deep reverence and bow in gratitude to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Kashak extends its heartfelt greetings to the honorable members of the Indian Parliament, distinguished guests from Ladakh, Union Territory of India, Tibet support groups and the Tibetan people all over the world. His Holiness the Dalai Lama received the prestigious Nobel Peace Prize in recognition for his consistent advocacy of non-violence to resolve the Sino-Tibet conflict. This award symbolizes recognition by the Nobel Committee for His Holiness's constructive effort and commitment towards addressing international conflict resolution, human rights violations, and global environmental challenges. The endeavor to transform the 21st century into a century of dialogue and peace by learning lessons from the devastation of war and conflict of the previous century has not yet materialized. Therefore, it is evident that the broad vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama continues to remain relevant and indispensable for the entire humanity. Today, we are observing the 74th anniversary of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights and also the International Human Rights Day. However, the violations of basic human rights remain unabated across the world. We stand in solidarity with those who are suffering under repressive regimes and authorities. We also express our deep admiration for those individuals and groups who are striving for human rights and fundamental rights. The first article of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights emphasizes on freedom and equality of all human beings. Similarly, Lord Buddha asserted that freedom is happiness, falling under others' control is suffering. Your own self is your own master. Who else could it be? If you become your own master, you gain success, dignity, happiness, and freedom from suffering. The great Indian saint Shantideva prayed for the absence of conflict and violence, thereby leading to the attainment of absolute freedom. On the contrary, if one's thoughts and actions come under the influence of others, then freedom will be lost. Today, even though numerous countries have signed the International Bill of Human Rights, cases of suppression and marginalization of minority nationalities and communities around the world still persist. Across Tibet, unrelenting gross violations of human rights are taking place. In recent years, under a broad policy objective of the Chinese government, it has enforced forging of uniform Chinese national identity, sinicization of Tibetan Buddhism, and discriminatory language policies. This has resulted in coerced enrollment of Tibetan children in colonial-style boarding schools. These coercive measures policies are causing an unprecedented threat to the survival of distinctive Tibetan identity. Unless the Chinese government is eager to follow Mao Zedong, who was seeking an opportune moment by waiting for Tibetans to resist and then suppress them, it is pertinent to seek methods which conforms to the international laws and norms. This is in the long-term interest of the country's harmony and national stability. With an already entrenched and pervasive Chinese Communist Party and state control all over Tibet, the Communist Party system is being strengthened by increasing the party membership. Likewise, village leaders are being recruited into CCP and they are tasked with the responsibility to crack down on separatism and maintain stability. In large villages, the permanent work teams are systematically implementing measures to reform village system, eradicate old systems and transform habits, customs and traditions. Through the grid road management system, PRC authorities continue to conscript local Tibetans. For instance, among the 48,000 personnel of the grid management system sent to the Qinghai province from 2011 to 2018, 34,000 Tibetans were deployed in the Tibetan areas. This year, 28 towns in Pekar, which are currently administered under Driru County with a population of 10,400 people, are divided into 50 grids and are being tightly controlled and closely monitored by 57 grid leaders, 280 grid examiners and 140 volunteers. Last month, the Chinese government announced that it has built and started operating a big cloud computing data center in Lhasa to monitor data of 300 million people in Asia. The center will be used for compiling data through the ongoing surveillance systems such as CCTV camera, facial recognition, global positioning system, which is in brackets GPS, and large-scale collection of data and DNA. It will also enable digital dictatorship with unprecedented power of surveillance and control. The Chinese government is claiming that these measures are aimed at maintaining stability and falsely accuses Tibetans of, in quotes, separatism and disturbing social security. To maintain stability, every movement of Tibetans are watched round the clock through enforcement of communist ideology and policy of one nation, one culture, one religion and one language. Moreover, the Tibetans are forced to express gratitude to the Chinese government and caused to follow the so-called advanced Chinese culture and way of life. This system of all-encompassing control of society is unheard of in the world. No one other than the Chinese government in this world can think of such policies which violate people's inherent human rights and dignity. The Central Tibetan Administration is making consistent efforts to seek a mutually beneficial and a lasting solution to the Sino-Tibet conflict through the middle way approach based on non-violence and negotiation. It is because we consider the sustenance of the Tibetan people's cultural, religious, linguistic identity and natural environment as crucial to our existence. Despite all odds, we stand firm in our efforts and commitments to reach out to and engage with the Chinese leadership to resolve the Sino-Tibet conflict. We would like to commend the participation of a good number of Tibetans in the voluntary Tibet advocacy group, some of whom have already launched their advocacy campaigns in their respective countries. It is of paramount importance to harness their potential, ability and skills to strengthen our movement in the dynamic global political situation. Therefore, we urge everyone to join this campaign. Finally, we pray for the long life and good health of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and freedom for the Tibetan people. May freedom and human rights prevail throughout the world. The Kashak, 10 December 2022. Thank you.
تصريح باللغة العربية ثم باللغة
우리 민몽교 사전 단조 온도라게 아니 인지티 담셔노야 단조 온도라 페로노
كلمة قصيرة. السلام عليكم، مرحبا بكم كل اخواتنا واخواتنا. حقا انا داوي يكون سابق انذار يعني
다른데
كما تفضل خويا محمود
진짜 중요해 새 주의기 아니
نصرة
잠링게 도움이 도다니 뭐라 개벽이 kap슐라 단다 유럽기 아니 주도 공원 도된 야술라다
ما ننساوش دائما
다가나 신기 아니 공원 텐슈 진짜 주기라
اشياء غير
다가나 신기 지도 수번 넘버 아니
الناس قاموا
총재 매일백에 초박하기 아니 소신 소주다 소신
كثير الجزائريين
다가나 신기 다 디나라 나나스기 다 별이 미마 아니 용라 행게 상물로라 다닌데 아니 캠베 돈념 순나 두바다 다 미망부 쉬시데 좀 두바들라 아니 디 공도 소스라 다가 주다 다가나 신기 아니 행게 상물로라 투시나 쉬이 몽골 차시나 디다웨기 모주기야 캠베데 모트니 연구 유디가는 행게 상물로라 이거 리워시얼 가르쳐 쉬고이나 아니 캠베 디다 디다올라 상물로 냠슈 나로나스 아니 단다기 뒤수 딜라 카자 고도 딜라 원한주 배 생이데 사제데 배 레딜라 원한주기
غير نجاح الحراك
당 원한주
ما ينساش خاوتهم
딱 지난주 보고 열었다 뒤수 딜라
يكون عندنا هذيك
뒤수디 갈라 원주 아니 깨서디다 쉬 먹어봤다는 원한주 배워질래 밀려질래 깨데 원주 뭔가 심바 미 많이 버쟁 원주기 배배기
عبر
아니 미실랑 원주기 밀려기 깨워질래 돼요래 샤다 차 루바 간지게 토니냐 가지고 배바스니 셰디가나
وكذلك
따다다 가라주기 랭게 조 치슈디 가레스나 가라주기 탄데 투즈딜라
عندما
아니 고야는 고야 카사 고도 가리 고도 슈비나 배발라 배라 가라주기 가라주기 투즈다 아빠베기 가라주라 사드토라 탑스기 랭귀다 미링오레게 딩어주기 디토라 디스 공부 망시에제 근데 제투베 있는 가라주 단다 배드 심볼은 네트워 마세 마음발 샤시는 거지 공부 야토야라디 어제 그때인데 어제 그 제투고 레상부도 지단에
هبة تاع الشعب الجزائري
디나노라 가라주 배바
كل خلاف
단다디 스위시고시 말에 배 유도저 상말에 네 남들 지지란 남기 괜히 이게 라볼라 슈드게 나 배바 인스 나 배바 인 나 배발 가고 유스
في آخر المطاف
배바인 배발 가부유 배배 나라 가르치고 있는 얘기 sem번나라 낙세 문여sem라도 싸워니는 정기 멘다스 디
بصدورهم
미리 찍고 있다 단단 무슨 배랑데 탑적이 내가 어디거나 나오는라가 지금 탑적이 따와토는 만다 가리 여부 이네야 이네 얘기 탐자디 가르치고나 갖도 이네야 배 미리 이 체제는 갖도 이네야 낙세 문여셈 동sem에 싸워니는 정기 멘다스 땡 어저께 탑석에 누가지가 다 겹쳐지 탑석에 어저께 딘데지가 레이어도가 나라도 상막에 리포트 팀제 더 책도 디셔 나라도 코프 잡고 했던 나라도 뒤져 대기 어저 랭겐다 미르디 어저께 인지 룸베게 메시지를 마임바 넥스에게 배 미리 아니 가와 가제 종기 아니 미리지라 깨베기 아니 어저께 랭겐도 차대기요레스 딜 랭게 상문로라 마제버 나로나 단다 계시 배우디 소포질레 마샤샤나 기나즈 고고요래 고고 유대가는 남 견되는 것을 가리나 도고 쉬면은 배도에 달라 기나즈게 간제 임바예나야 아니 까메나야 다가나 신기 당라톤에 대고나 당라톤에 대고야 단다 기나즈게 캠베다 된데는 폐고고에도네 기나즈 공부시네 페투야 다가나 신기 기나즈게 디톤에 신데 공부 찍나면에 페투에 임만에 기나즈게 배 따도에 달라 페투야 디 제토에는 가라서 미리디 개발네 아니 무슨 탐마데 무슨 시주다 레데 이네 미리디 무슨 배배 미리지라 개발내게 무슨 그 최고요레스 제사 다리 때는 행게 참말로라 얘기 아니 속수행게 둘시에게 송시에 대값을라 얘기 수에게 고든 소원에 크란즈기 갖도에는 남이야 니마 짱고르 뭐지 그 마수리래 니마 아니 깔락진 나요레스 가리나요 시번에 크란 먼저 배배 크란즈 배배 로드 소스 크란즈 사제 가바드네 들었습니다 가바치고 얘는 내버 얘는 갖도에는 크란즈 나 배배 인다 레게 삼르드 싸와니는 잡아지야 말다시 타마데 크란즈 시번에는 너고 살라 통을 시번에 크란즈 배 미리 지게 배 미리 지던 시기 유튜브 거나 그런 세번 나로라 뽑아게 거야지래 뽑아게 거야다 디야 공부 쉐바이나 행게 속에 디나는 거랑 저 미리 생기데 그런 저 셈슈 거래다 냠고야 자완년이 요 말레스 셈슈 바고야 디 오즈게 좀세 망보 슈지 쉐여디 말은 좀 얘기 미리 되게 랭게 디나로라 가리여를 쉬고 있나 탑저게 디나로라 말은 좀 연내면에 오즈게 다미 저럽 신다 켜는 만다베기 아니 먼저는 우기 진호 고스탄고 침부초 가라 오즈게 다 하게스네래 오즈게 근데지 오즈게 수치도 만다베기 근데 기나도 시기도 오즈 담에 캠베 가딩게 미리 심마 망고여래 고즈게 캠베게 오다 오즈게 캠베게 오게 랑가데 탑저도 로가지를 두고 여래 디나오나 지금 남야 말해 대대가나 오즈게 미리게 탑저 대기 우기 진호 고스탄고 침부초 셴다 만다 오즈 유디가나 완전 뽑아게 거야지래 완전나 오즈게 남배게 떠주게 떠주나네 주로 셴바다 만다베 오즈 남배게 떠주 아니 따주 니게 돈에 셴다 만다 하고 유디 오즈 뽑아게 거야지래스디 이네 완전게 카똥하게 뽑아게 거지래 왜라나 뒤지게 요 말해 나는 오즈 카드 보면 나랑서 배부서게 랭게 가려 쉬베나 배배 돈에 계속 완전게 지게 롱발라 오즈게 되게 예보이나 배배 돈을 목좀 망스나 배배우돌라 경계 야제제 미션발라 고도배라 수수로 축구수야 된 완전히 다대값기 아니 랭게 차되기 유디가나 아니 랭게 창문으로 다리 대규네 스위스 리젠션 프리미마기 딕소기 아니 소소슈 드미나물 한개 창매기 삽시데 한개 솔라야 구자단 자시 아니 다른 대기나족이 아니 미디감 냠슈나부데 한 레베 가고 총송스 아니 가고 예번 마치 아니 기나조야 뭐벌 차시나 기나조가 yap죠 간드지는 게 예번에 소소이 미리기 저 지구에도 민고도 절단에 싸워니는 만나로나 민고도 배바스도가 배 미리지다 지구여래 디 예바도 기나조 공부 쉬지 기나조기 공부 시에제 아니 못되는 기나조기 다다데 모즈렌도 쉬야라 아니 탑세 경우 간드진 바이네 기나조기 개체슈디 기나조기 소네 토에디 기나조 고수 잡나로나 당고 디레 이거들에 기나조기 우 마셰 바돌라 배바 이보다 자와니는 전부 제 메디가나 기나조 배드 탑적에 니마를 우 땅바이네야 기나조기 갑두인의 전부 마제로 지스 아니 스위스 나오나 스위스 레이덴스 프리마 나오나 먼저 데라 배바 유도적 가도 이보이네 기나조기 남균디네 기나조기 제보다 다가는 시기 미리기 된다라 기나조기 오저기 레비 칸드지 배바이네 시대 만원나 스팅아주 랭게레 아니 기나조기 디체나 타동들라 아니 다리인데 기나조 랭게 창문을 나리양 오저기 아니 따디나나 링체 대바는 모두 창문을래야 아니 도지체다 아니 마음바기 오저 디자베기 오저기야 레고 된데야 연구래 데라 기나조기 yap요 딱 간지 임바이네레 근데 진나로 나쉬 라서 탱게 창문을 도지체 다가나 신기한데 랑가 파베도 다리 창문 쉬시도 제사는 구수 도자 나고 이제 제용
디젤라 참이연데 덴체 몰람데 지기조라 인성기 담아데라
세메윤데 갸즈뱅아시 냠준돌라 다게 된 这个的多这个娃子，多那个不知道是忘记，谁去给我讲我讲这些，有这个姐妹啷个这边，这山地的牛都长娃子，那多。남균이 깨배라 럭 깨봐 깨가 패대와 깨가 통고 들어와 얘네 다리 쉐마만 꼬지 패셔 아니 디백 섬나라 오늘에 초밥백 가고 총소 토체나 쉐는 저마에 마오발라 근데 쉔게서 패쳐라 깨배라 냠촌 나나 빼고 통고도 아니 말한다 오시는 럭종다 근데 개개만 매대 얘네 다 다리 이제 인제 돌로 직 로즈라 됐으면 매일 아예 직 갈라고 설계도 가시나나 소속이 짜den 게 된다로 봐 다디 다리 내 패기 상황을 아니 닝타반 토체나 쉐이 아니 마뱀이 소라 쉐지 계속부터 당아주 대 과할 농바 과치나 가서 겹지 슈가 용거로 겹지 슈디 가서기 배난기 강이디 가서 대 동시에 가서 강이 시고래 오늘 나인다 얘네 다디 되지점네 마뱀나 오늘에 소소서 삼번 나라 즉 삼삼 개인 과외대 개충부 통구도 오늘에 수수기 당아주기 수수기 또그 된다다 들을 패래 오늘 가요 말에 내 차례 요래 소소직 밤에 빙겨다 치도 당일사지 바꾸고래 강에 이니 니마 진짜 종입에 세 주다 진짜 숨에 세 주더라 패토나 오늘 야구에서 삼고도 어디 니에드네 따직 막해바다 와직 슈스들이 지 시에게 톱당다 여기 말할 때 얘네 나라 배바지 입에 차네 따직 생각 소라들 내서 아니 마음발라 들으지야 소소소기 상호 땅으로 나지 베개쇼에 마도지기 양얘기 세왕다들이 돈이 매일 와 아니 कुछ 따지기 소소소 야 통고 통고다들이 얘는 오늘 딱 미릭시 맞으로 따나가 저기 오늘 소소 개다디 포 몸에 가망마 주나 되래 다 다리기 자기 돈이 연행 가서 과학 갔어라 이제 캡두고 봐 세상 되지기야 배나는 얘기 배미소네 셈나라 나 출로로 얘기 좀 어서 내가 계산 어서로 와 아니 만족이 되지 나마데 때도나 오네기 따지 소소 배바 입에 차네 되게 오네기 소소게 돈다지 주고 그래 삼고도 따딩 가라기 소라지 아니 지금 너희 나 고한다 쉬이